Welcome to the Pop Culture Cosmos.
And we're back with another episode of the Pop Culture Cosmos. This is Gerald Glassford coming right back at you here from the PCC, the Pop Culture Cosmos. Of course, also as well, I do the Inside Sports, fantasy football, and you know it's a fun time for fantasy football because it's the playoffs in fantasy football in a lot of leagues right now. Also as well, Lakers Fast Break. They're going through the NBA in the NBA Cup. The Lakers are playing their regular season games, going through all this drama. So for your updates and your NBA fix and your Lakers fix, go to the Lakers Fast Break as well. Please, out there for us, you can help us out by liking and subscribing, sharing, following, whatever you can do to support us. If you're listening to us on one of the radio stations that still, after all these years, carries us, we are truly indebted to you and the radio stations for taking the time out of their day and yours for listening to us as well. And don't forget that magical 5-star review. I've heard it still works on Apple Podcasts. And also make sure you give us that good rating on Spotify and all that good stuff. I know we're on some Spotify lists at the end of the year lists. So if we're on your end of year list, please let us know. Send it over to us, popculturecosmos@yahoo.com, and we'll highlight you on the air as well. But it wouldn't be a Pop Culture Cosmos without my partner in crime. One of them, indeed. I cannot wait, though. This episode's going to be great. But I'm truly waiting for him to go ahead and tell us his best and worst of the year. I've got Melinda mulling hers over hers, TJ mulling his. But is a good man indeed. He is out and about at your local shopping mall in Texas as the Happy Hoarder. Also as well, Humanican Media. Like and subscribe to that today. And the Mastermind, along with Brank for the Super BS Games cast. Of course, I'm just the guy that rides along that train. It is, of course, Josh Great Peterson. Josh, great to have you back, my friend. We have much to discuss. The fall of grace from Sony when it comes to their Spider-Verse. But in the case of some rising video games, hey, video games may not be dead just yet.
Yeah, I mean, I hope not. But what's up, man? How's it going? Yes, I was at the mall this weekend. I'm very sweaty from loading boxes in and out. So you're lucky that that scent is not going through the computers. But anyways, I'm good, man. I'm here. We're the VGAs just happened, and that's exciting. I'm still totaling up. I need to see who won our little vote thing. I gotta hit the spreadsheet here later. But yeah, man, what's going on? What's good?
Not much outside right now, just setting up for the holidays. Just want to make sure that everybody out there has a happy and safe holiday. Wanted to make sure we let you know that as well. Looking forward to seeing what our end of the year lists will be all about as we get closer to it. I'm hoping that everyone will get the chance to describe their in feelings what they think is the best. And of course, the fun part, Josh, the worst of 2024. Can't wait to get to those lists as well. But it is, of course, the VGAs that were on last week. I don't know what the total numbers were for as far as how many people watched. Usually Jeff Keighley will tweet something out there. He is the guy, the mastermind behind the VGAs. I can tell you for a fact when I was watching, Josh, I know it hit at least 1.1 million concurrent viewers on the YouTube Central channel alone for the VGAs. Not anyone else's channels that were maybe have been streaming it, not anywhere else that you got it. I just know on that alone, it was over a million, which makes it probably the most, or definitely the most visible event for the video game industry in and of itself. Let's, before we start off and how it went, and go into the winners, we go into the the reveals, because that's what's really all about. It's the reveals, the commercials, and the reveals, and the commercials of all the video games that were represented there. Seeing to where it's gotten now, You can, and I had issues with Jeff Keighley and how he did things and went about things, and still do. As far as how much of a price tag he puts on these developers, but no one can argue how big he has made this out of. You could talk about how commercialized it is, how, in fact, it's not really a game show, award show. It's just basically just a reason why for 3.5 hours you're running video game trailers. It doesn't matter, Josh. Seemingly, the gaming world stops for this, and for that, he needs to be given credit for just that alone.
It's crazy. Jeff Keighley's an interesting man in the fact that he hasn't really done anything like before he was famous for doing this stuff. He
Mhm,
just kind of found a market and was in the right place at the right time, and
mhm.
he found that gap from E3, and he found he created this award show, and I don't know, he's making all the right moves, and people were very critical of what he was doing at first, but now it seems that people are kind of on board with it, and the VGA, between the VGAs and the summer gaming experience he has, like, it's kind of filling that hole left by a lot of these big summer game programs. And for that, say what you want about the man, but he's definitely succeeding in that area.
I will tell you though, overall, I know a lot of feedback has come. How should I say? They get their share of feedback each and
Oh,
every year.
I'm
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. And I will say that some of it was listened to from what I feel from last year. It's not perfect. It's
Yeah.
still like, any other award show. It does overstay its welcome. It was 3.5 hours this year, but I thought it was a little bit tighter. Would I take some things out? Yes. Thank God, Snoop Dogg. I'm telling you what, man. You get underestimate whether or not you thought the Snoop Dogg concert was a necessity or something that you thought could be cut out. God bless Snoop Dogg for for being in the 2024 as relevant as he was 30 years ago. Wasn't you? I was telling the other day that I was shopping in Walmart, and I saw in the kids section a Snoop Dogg shirt. And I'm thinking to myself, man, that would have never been done 30 years ago. But look at it now. He's on Fortnite, gets 10 to 15 million people watching his concert there for 10, 20 minutes.
What's
Props to him.
funny? Yeah, for real. But like Snoop Dogg has always been at the core of gaming somehow. Because
Smart.
if you
He knows his brand and how to market it.
Right, exactly. So if you remember when the Xbox, I think it was the original Xbox, when that was both the Xbox and the 360, like I remember seeing video of the release party, and he's been at both of them to get those consoles. So, and I know that he's a huge like Call of Duty and Madden fan. So, Snoop Dogg is a gamer, and I think he knows his audience, and his audience appreciates that about him.
He's on ESPN talking about NBA and the Lakers. He's for football. He knows he and his team are so smart extending his brand, making it visible. Remember the years he was, palling around with Martha, still I think does to some extent. But remember when that was a real thing and he was getting them really a highlight with people not traditionally a follower of his into that atmosphere. I thought it was just super fun to see him. He's literally my age or
Yeah.
thereabouts, and he is still as relevant as ever. So, yeah, I just, again, props to him. I just wanted to go on the side note of that. Whether or not you thought it was needed on the show or not, that's fine. But I wanted to ask you this, your thoughts overall on the show itself. I thought, again, there's still places where they need to work on it, but it is getting better as a viewable show, despite the fact people think it's just a glorified video game commercial.
Yeah, so I guess my only complaint, like, I thought it was okay. I didn't despise my time watching it, but my only complaint is the games that are nominated in itself, because it seems like we have categories full of the same games over and over again. So if there were a bigger variety of games being nominated for awards, I think that would really push that award show up, because it would create, not just opportunities but exposure for a lot of games that people might not know are out there that they might want to play, instead of nominating Astrobot in 6 different categories and Final Fantasy in 5 different categories and so on and so forth.
Well, I will say again, I'm going to leave all the highlights when we do a full VGA wrap up on the Super BS Gamescast. We'll go ahead and have all the highlights and visuals. I don't want to do the same thing on 2 different shows, so I'm going to let save the special stuff for you and I, Branker, together. God help everyone out there when we get together once again for that. But to cover the
Everybody
VGAs,
loves it, man.
yeah, exactly. It's like almost a threat when we say, "Yeah, we're going to go on the air pretty soon." Exactly. So the VGAs itself, the Video Game Awards, again, you can argue with it about how it's structured, about what its ultimate goal is, etc. When it's placed, I'm upset with the fact that it's placed because we saw 3 very strong games in December that were released: Infinity Nikki, Marvel Rivals, who both had strong reviews, and of course, Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, which many are calling maybe someone else, I don't know. Maybe someone in here, I don't know, as its game of the year. So with that said, I have issues with that, but we can argue all the way we want, but you can't argue with the success of what they're doing right now.
Absolutely. I 100% agree. And let's just say it out loud. Astrobot clean shop, right? I mean, that was that seemed to be the favorite in pretty much every category. Whereas Final Fantasy, you got your wish. Final Fantasy, the game that you are not so fond of, only won one award. So,
and then the DLC, I mean, they really won only for like a community award, and that's pretty much it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad to see Wukong won something though. I like to see those smaller studios do something.
Well, it's not a smaller studio. It's not a smaller studio for long, my friend, because the way it sold overseas in China and even here in the States. I know that JSJ, who's a huge supporter of that, and that's his game of the year, was really happy that it won something. I know that people were arguing about and getting mad about the fact that best, when they announced the awards, most of the awards, they just basically put it on a side drift, that's commercial, video game release, video game announcement. Then when they go, oh yeah, best RPG, it's like okay, and this was the winner, and they don't even have the winners come up and celebrate. Like best RPG, I think was the one that people noted to the most. Again, these are things that he has to take note and he has to understand. But you get seduced because these companies are paying him a lot of money for those 30-second to 2-minute to whatever minute drops. Sometimes he is asking for them. Sometimes he's asking for them, but most of the time he's getting a lot of money for them, Josh.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like the Super Bowl for video games. And when you're a video game show and, you're getting almost as much press as an NFL game, you're probably doing something right. And it's probably worth the money you'd spend on getting a slot on it.
Exactly. So again, he's doing what he needs to do. It is, regardless of the little things I would say are problematic to me, like the date it runs. We saw several games get outed that could have been a part of the actual video game events, and part of could have been part of the nominees get shorted because of it. Again, overall, you can't argue with the success, but I'll tell you what, it is something that I know that for everyone that it's kind of like really has a hard time with it. There are really no alternatives. He has created his own entity with the Summer Games Fest and now with this, and then whatever he does at Gamescom. There is no other alternative for this. E3 is dead. E3 is gone. This is why, in a nutshell, I wanted E3 to be something that stayed in the zeitgeist of gaming, even to this day. It just justifies my rationale. I would have arguments with people with younger, kids. We don't need E3. We don't need E3. No, then okay, stick with the VGAs and Summer Games Fest because that's all you got.
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest though, E3 is never going to come back. As much as we want those glory days to return, it will never come back because we have reached this new digital frontier where all these companies are discovering that, hey, I can put on an entire show and have it be less than a third of the cost of participating in E3. And I think that's where, the money, the greed kind of dismantled E3.
Exactly. So we will see what happens as far as the overall show, if it improves, if it does not. But definitely we'll keep on sharing our thoughts each and every year on it. But if you have thoughts on the video game awards themselves and how it was structured, how it laid out, please let us know your thoughts. Popculturecosmos at yahoo.com. Well, the actual show itself, my friend, we're going to go ahead and let's get into the awards first. As far as the winners, obviously, you want to go ahead and touch on the one that's the most important, and that is, of course, Game of the Year. I thought it was cut and dry, and I think part of it was because that when you have a DLC and essentially a remake as part of the two of the top games listed on there, I think right in and of a nutshell, your competition is lower because the backlash they would get if they would win.
Yeah.
Balatro as an indie game, no matter how much you think is great, and I know a lot of people think it's great, and I look at it and I think that this is really something that I might even get into. It's a $15 card game. At the end of the day, it's a $15 card game. So with that said, there wasn't much competition for there wasn't much competition for Astrobot outside of ReFantasio. So with that said, my friend, were you happy that Astrobot won? Were you surprised? Your thoughts on actually the celebration of Sony in their 30th year getting a Game of the Year with Astrobot?
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't surprised that it won. Remember, this was my pick to win Game of the Year, and so here it is. But Balatro is an interesting case because I think just the fact that it was nominated for this category speaks volumes
That's a
about
big win.
how good the game
Absolutely.
is. Yeah, just in itself is a big win. Um, I guess I was kind of looking at it as there's three possibilities here. It could have been Astrobot, Final Fantasy, or Metaphor ReFantasio, but I don't think that the audiences for the other two were big enough to merit, a Game of the Year award, or sorry, yeah, to win Game of the Year. So I kind of felt like Astrobot had that one in the bag.
So let me give you this. What if you and I, whether it's Everything Everywhere All at Once or the Marvel metaverse, what if we went into an alternate universe and
Okay.
Concord at that time? Because Concord and Astrobot were released right around the same time. I think almost on the same week. If I'm not, they were just right around the same time. Let's put it this way.
Right. Yeah.
And what if Concord had been the one that everybody would have lauded, and Astrobot would have been just thought of, oh, it's just the tech demo a little bit longer.
That would have been interesting. Then I think maybe Astrobot would be the one we'd be checking eBay prices on here, every week. But what a world! What a world! I mean, I guess that would say a lot about the current consumer base. It completely, actually, if that were true, that would mean that the landscape of gaming is like completely shifted from what it is now.
Yeah, I just wanted to throw it out because I was thinking when you were talking, I was thinking like that would have been really weird, you know.
Yeah.
Concord, the game that it's just like in this alternate universe. I think somewhere Concord is the one that the developers are up there lauding their reward for Video Game of the Year, and Astrobot they're cleaning out their desks because they just got nixed by Sony. So just
Somewhere in the multiverse, man. Somewhere in
yeah.
the multiverse.
So getting back to it, my friend. Sorry to go off the chain like that, but I wanted to hear your thoughts on Astrobot. Again, it's you enjoyed it thoroughly. Brank enjoyed it thoroughly. They've just added free DLC to it, so I really think it's something that was very, very well deserved. What are some of the other standout winners in your eyes? You talked about Balatro, which I believe won for Indie Game of the Year, which again, you pretty much knew the fact it was going to win for that simply because the fact it was the only one of the indie games that, well, got voted for Game of the Year. So kind of would be weird if that didn't get voted as the best independent game. But it's just, which is, something that we're going to be looking into as far as from that studio for down the line. But let me hear your thoughts on some of the different winners that were out there.
Okay, so let's best narrative, we'll jump over here. So on the Super BS Games cast, we were all three different on this one, right? It was
Mm-hmm.
I thought that it was going to be Final Fantasy Rebirth. Brank thought it was going to be Metaphor ReFantazio, and you thought it was going to be Hellblade.
Mm-hmm.
And lo and behold, it's Metaphor ReFantazio, and it irritates me that I have not had time to play this game yet. So I don't really have a lot to say on that, but it's just interesting that we have this game that has literally just been out for like 2 months, and it's winning best narrative, in that category, whereas Final Fantasy came out in February, I think. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and even like Hellblade, like that launched in February also, I think. I don't remember exactly, but yeah, I know it's just interesting to me. What was the other one I was going to talk about? So Final Fantasy did win best score in music, and I do think it was deserving of that. But then again, there's a few in that category I haven't played. Best audio design, I think we were all in agreement, right, that it was going to end up being Senua Saga Hellblade 2, and I have to say the audio design in that game is masterful.
Yes. Again, when it comes to Metaphor ReFantazio, it just, again, this is from the Persona crew. This is from Atlas.
Yeah.
This is, I mean, this is, you don't want to say it's a Persona game, but man, obviously the influence is there and it shows, and they got a great game because of it.
Yeah, I mean, this is the birth of a new franchise for them, so I see this game, living on for many years. Hellblade, on the other hand, I'm not quite sure what's going on with that if they're going to end up making a new one, but the Hellblade is a very well put together game. I think if it were bigger in scale, it would probably have a bigger present, or sorry, more awards at the game awards.
Well, let's take a look at some of the other winners there with the rest of the time left in this break before we hit the break. And I know that best performance, I know Senua Saga Hellblade 2. Matt, you were the first one to get me into the original Hellblade.
Mm-hmm.
You spoke so glowingly about this game and how it just resonated with you personally. You went on the show years ago and talked about how the original just affected you as an individual because of the ramifications of it, how it deals with mental health. You thought it was really the first game out there that really dealt seriously and respectfully about the issues of mental health. And this sequel came out, sounds fantastic.
Yeah.
Visuals are fantastic, but
Mm-hmm.
we've called it a walking simulator. You have, and I agree with you 100% on that. But the performance by Malia Jurgens in trying to tell the narrative, is this like a makeup for what I think she was the same voice in the first one. Is that correct?
Yeah, she absolutely was. And there's actually a documentary you can watch about her making it. And she threw herself into that character. Like for the time they were making this game, she became Senua. And this is why I think that she deserves this award, because you watch it's a walking simulator, but she did such a great job at walking in this simulator. So everything from her movements to the way that she, the facial expressions, like it's just absolutely amazing how it all came together. A lot of people say that Andy Serkis is the best motion capture artist out there, and he's good, but Melanie Jurgens, I think her last name was
Mm-hmm.
she could very well be, the next Andy Serkis.
So with that, again, some of the other winners that we have before we hit the break. Best narrative we talked about. Best mobile. I mean, Balatro cleaned up with 3 awards overall, I think, with dealing with best debut game, indie game, best indie game overall, and best mobile game. Best art direction goes to Metaphor ReFantazio. But best ongoing game and best multiplayer game went to Helldivers 2. This is something I think you talked to me about in a recent chat about games that you thought most emulated Starship Troopers, and could you have a hit game off of that? Well, the more you play Helldivers 2, I think will give you that vibe. And in doing so, I think my answer is definitively yes.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I agree. Helldivers, and that was a game too that a lot of people were really, into when it first came out, and so it has managed to, uh, fill that void that's left by the vacancy of science fiction shooters, and I think that that's really cool and good for them.
I'll tell you what, though, Helldivers 2 is something, again, I would love to see, as I've told you before about Starship Troopers, I'd love to see that brought back. I mean, we see all these old Chitty Chitty Bang Bang is being developed. I'm
Mhm.
not kidding. That I saw in the news last week as far as a new version of that. But
Of course.
yeah, okay, if they bring back Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, they'll bring back anything. But Starship Troopers should be brought back and evolved, especially if you incorporate the old with the new. We talked about this before, but what if you incorporated the Helldivers in some sort of faction that works either with or against the traditional Starship Troopers? How do you think that would coalesce?
That would be pretty cool, I think, if they were to somehow show that it exists in the same world. Like they go to a planet and they're fighting bugs. That I mean, Helldivers is not doesn't have a single player game though, right? It's just a multiplayer shooter.
Yeah, just a multiplayer experience.
Yeah. So if they were to somehow, put some DLC in there that blended this in with the Starship, um, I don't know what not the copyright, the property legalities would be there. But yeah, I mean, I think it would be pretty cool. I think it would be a great way to get people reinterested in Starship Troopers. But at this point, though, I think they just need to remake the movie.
I would like a series. I kind of would like it seeing stretched out into a series because then you go deeper as far as the aftermath of what happened with the war, and things
Yeah,
are calm. All of a sudden, it's like years later, and you're thinking like, "Oh, okay, everything's good." All of a sudden, what's that? New bugs? A new bug threat? All right. Clendathu again? All right, here we go. Revisit it. And then you bring Johnny back, you dust him off, and then yeah,
yep.
Carmen you bring back. And you know, just I just think there's so many possibilities I could do if I were working with it. And then you bring a new crew of fresh meat. What what is it? The guy in Starship Trooper, fresh meat for the grinder. So yeah, there you go. Absolutely. So fresh.
Get Rico's Roughnecks in there.
Yes, Rico's Roughnecks, indeed. Yes, that's absolutely correct. So it is, of course, Helldivers 2 earning a great bit of praise as their best ongoing and multiplayer game. And then again, yes, Astrobot is Game of the Year. Also won Best Game Direction. I think that usually gives it away. Best Game Direction usually coincides with Best Game for theirs. So yeah, absolutely. Final Fantasy did win for score and music. You talked about that. Best adaptation for television movies. Again, Fallout. I was surprised it won over Arcane, but Fallout was so popular on Amazon Prime. I shouldn't be surprised on that. Your thoughts on Fallout winning the best video game adaptation before we head to the break?
Oh, it absolutely deserved it. I think Fallout was an amazing show. As someone who is in and out of the Fallout series, I questioned whether or not I would enjoy watching this one all the way through, but it was a really really well done show, and I think that the others, though I'm sure Knuckles was great and I've heard great things, just I don't feel like they were even in the same caliber as what Amazon did with Fallout.
So again, it was the Video Game Awards. What are your thoughts on the winners? Did you approve? Do you like it? Please let us know. Popculturecosmos at yahoo.com. Well, 1/2 hour down, 1/2 hour to go here at the Pop Culture Cosmos. It is Josh the Great Peterson along with me, Gerald Glassford. Thanks again for watching this. We truly appreciate it. Josh, we now get to the real reason why the VGAs exist. Okay, let's not kid anyone out there. It is for the reveals, for the commercials, etc., because all you saw was, okay, out of the 3.5 hours, how much do you think was actually involved in presentations, and how much, as far as the people going up on stage or awards being presented or a musical thing or anything like that? How much of that 3.5 hours was that, and how much of it was video games presentation?
That's hard to say. I think that I think it was probably about what 50-50, somewhere in there. Like it was
I was going to say half an hour was the everything that was not video game, I guess presentations as far as commercials or video game trailers being shown.
yeah.
Seemed like it to me, anyways. I know it was a lot more, but it seemed like it, anyways. But be that as it may, people were there for the video game reveals. They were there for the video game announcements and things of that nature. There were a few of them. I think that's the part that I feel underwhelmed by, to be honest with you, Josh, because there were rumors. Jason Schreier said there'd be 2 holy guacamole, just out of this world announcements. I didn't see anything that surprised me. The new Naughty Dog game was the.
Yeah, what are your thoughts on that? Tell me, because I watched the trailer for it, and
Oh yeah,
I don't
I
know quite what I think yet.
well, I could tell you as far as the public reaction out there, they didn't like it at all. As far as the social media reaction, but that's for other reasons why we won't go into here. I think if you want to have that discussion, you could discuss it on the Super BS Gamescast. But the new intergalactic video game, Josh, I forget what the rest of the Heretic something. Yeah, of course. Then again, I shouldn't talk. Uncharted had Drake's Fortune. Nobody remembered a Drake's Fortune, right? They just remember Uncharted. So intergalactic, that was the new game announced, but it was not surprising because a lot of people had pegged Naughty Dog's game to be next game to be introduced at the VGAs, and I was underwhelmed. I just didn't think of seeing it as something that
Yeah.
like I got to go out and get. I want to relate it to Starfield, and I'll relate to Starfield, and that Starfield was the way it was presented and introduced was something I really thought I was going to get into, and then when we played it, it really wasn't something I did want to get into.
Yeah.
But maybe Intergalactic will be the exact opposite. But from the look so far, I've just not been drawn in by it, and I'm hoping I will be. And you're talking to someone who absolutely loves the Uncharted series to no end. He has a healthy respect for The Last of Us, even though the gameplay I've never really jived with. The narrative I absolutely love. I mean, we love it on as far as the HBO series is concerned. So, Intergalactic, again, I'm not really a huge fan of yet, but I'm hoping I will be down the line.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't hate what I watched, but also it gave me what was the BioWare's Anthem? It gave me Anthem vibes, and because of that, I went into a state of like, oh, maybe this is not going to be great, and I would have much rather had seen another Uncharted game at some point. I thought it was going to end up being Last of Us Part, 6 or whatever. But
3,
yeah, but
but yeah,
I mean, I'm cautiously optimistic about it. I can see it. I trust Naughty Dog to do their thing, but a space game was definitely not what I had anticipated from them.
well, I had heard rumors that they were setting up for that as far as the fact that it would be something sci-fi related, but I just again, I just maybe it's the characters, the way it started off, and maybe that's why I don't know. I just something felt off for me. It just felt like it was there, and with Naughty Dog, I should never feel like it's just there. I just feel like it's if it's going to sci-fi, that's their choice. They made hit games, lauded games for well over almost now a decade and a half since 2007.
Yeah.
So they can pretty much do what they want, and if they want to go into space, absolutely. But I just did not feel initially compelled by it, so I'm hoping I can get that buy-in later on.
So if there's an element of like, to the space stuff, like the main character obviously lands on the planet. If there's an element of exploration, and it gives you those Uncharted vibes there, that could be cool because I'm actually intrigued overall by the world, the universe that it exists in. But at the same time, I'm not. It just looks like something that has been done a lot, because the character, especially the main character, is giving me like Ellen Ripley vibes, and that's a kind of a ground that a lot of people have tried to do, try to replicate the Alien formula. So I don't know, man. I mean, like I said, I'm cautiously optimistic about it, but I'm not going
But
to
it
go
wasn't
in.
like an alien. It was more like she's a bounty hunter,
She's
or
a bounty. I mean, you could tell by the way the character is designed, though. Like she just kind of looks like she's, trying to get that like really cool, tough space person persona. But I don't know, man. Like I said, they didn't really reveal enough about it, but I hope it's good. Maybe it'll be good.
maybe it'll be good. Again, I should not doubt Naughty Dog. And again, the for whatever political reasons why it was getting trashed on, I'm just telling you, I don't have
I
those and share those values, but
I
I
didn't even know there
there
was
is a
an
huge
insane thing
backlash
flash.
because
I had no idea.
it's the protagonist that was in the trailer. People dumped on it right away, and then that I ignore that part of the situation.
Yeah.
I'm like, did I vibe with it? And I'm not saying I don't think I did, but I'm not saying that I'm going to give up on it because it's Naughty Dog and they have a history of games that have proven me wrong. And I felt from the get go about Uncharted. I was there in my game store pushing Uncharted because I knew that was going to be a hit, and I was right on the money with that. And I just felt the vibes from it. I'm not feeling great vibes yet, but I'm hoping I will down the line. I mean, there's been games, Avowed. Not everybody's had the great vibes about Avowed, but that's looking better. And when it comes out in February, it may actually be a big hit. So I will tell you though that for now, Intergalactic is something I think that a lot of people are going to be kind of worried about for Naughty Dog, if it'll continue the line of success or if it'll be at a bump in the road for Naughty Dog. But again, they deserve with their history of great video game making to be given the center of doubt. I mean, given without a doubt that they should have faith. People should have faith in what they're doing at Naughty Dog.
Yeah, yeah, and it's cool too. Sorry, not about. I was about to jump to another game that was announced, but yeah, I don't. Like I said, like Naughty Dog, I don't not have faith in them to make a good game. I just don't know if this is a game that is going to be spectacular.
So what else hit you, my friend? What else really appealed to you? They did have, of course, The Witcher 4, Borderlands 4. Those were announced ahead of time, so there was no surprise there. I know that very enthusiastic developer who made It Takes Two from earlier this decade. He came out with a new game, Split Fiction, another co-op game, because that's what his studio does. It specializes in its co-op games. I liked it. I like Split Fiction. Of all the games that I thought out there kind of appealed to me, there were two,
Yeah.
and this was one of them. I really think this game looks like a lot of fun.
Yeah, let's see which one. Remind me which trailer that was. I don't remember.
That was the one where the two ladies. They go. I guess they kind of like a remember like in Total Recall, you get put in there and you get your memories, or you get put into a different world. So they go to a company, and I guess for some reason I forgot what it is that they're going to be. One's making a fantasy game or a fantasy book, and one's making a sci-fi game or book, and they go to this place where they're just I get to get more ideas or something as far as that brings out their imagination. Somehow they get intertwined.
Oh.
So one level is a fantasy level, the other level's a sci-fi level, and then you realize the guy who's running the whole operation as far as for the dream sequences, as far as the company, he's the real bad guy. And it's just it's they have to get back to the real world before it's too late. Blah blah blah. But I think it was something that appealed to me. I thought it was interesting. Your thoughts now that does it jog a little bit of the memory now?
It does actually, yes. A very interesting concept. I mean, we don't see unique things like this in gaming often. All right, it's kind of basically a hybrid style game, and I think that this could be really cool.
I hope it is, my friend. I hope it is cool. I hope people will enjoy it. It is, of course, split fiction, but again, we'll see more and more as that comes out. Your thoughts, though, on something else that might have tickled your fancy when you saw what was that, like 40, 50 trailers seemingly during that period of time?
Onimusha is great to see. It's been 20 years since we've had another
Okami.
game. Okami was a good one. Yeah,
Okami too, yes. I mean,
yeah.
that was
So
a surprise. That was a surprise because even though Okami, and like you said, Onimusha too, both did not sell well, both are very much considered of its era some of the best video games that are out there by those few that played it. Like, think of it like Psychonauts. Does that make sense? Like
yeah,
Psychonauts was a critically lauded game that nobody played at the time, but somehow a sequel got to be made. This is following the same scenario. So I'm very happy for those that liked those games before. Yeah, tell me about Onimusha and tell me why you really like it.
just because I haven't played those games. I think the last one that I remember playing was on the PlayStation 2, and I do have pretty fond memories of those games. And Capcom, I always enjoyed Capcom games like that because Capcom makes games that, while they're not impossible to beat, they are still very challenging. And
Mhm.
that came to me at a time when I needed it. I think I was in middle school or high school when those games came out, and I remember sitting there thinking it was a nice escape between that and Final Fantasy. Those are some nice escapes for me at a time when I really needed an escape.
I will say this though, my friend, when it comes to that and Okami, it's nice to see them making the effort to try and bring these classic games and classic IPs to a new audience. I don't know how well it will do. I don't think the expectation should be high on selling, but it's nice to see them pay homage by bringing another version of the game out for both Onimusha and also, of course, Okami as well. So I'm looking forward to seeing what those two will offer when they both come out. So
Yeah, I agree, man. I'm excited. It's gonna be, like I said before, and you can quote me on this. I think that 2025 is gonna be an even bigger year for games than 2024 was.
anything else appeal to you? I know that the other last thing I wanted to go ahead and talk about for me for now, I know we'll save a ton more for Super BS because Brank is going to have a lot to say, is Project Century from the makers of Yakuza. I really was surprised about this game, and it really looked good as a martial arts spectacular. I think I want to get into this game because it looks really darn good. Did you remember this one? It is right around the turn of the 19. I shouldn't say turn of the century because again that was last century, but turn of the last century, around 1915, I think it was. You're in the city streets and wave after wave of gangs are trying to get over. Has like a little bit of a older version of
Mafia,
Sleeping
right? Is it
Mafia, Sleeping Dogs.
Mafia? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So what are your thoughts on this as far as Project Century? The Mafia game is another game we'll talk about
Oh,
too if you
okay,
want.
okay, I got confused.
But
Yeah, I
that
know. I
was this
mean,
was a kung fu, action flick type game as far as it concerned from the makers of Yakuza, and I thought it hit with me really well.
okay, hold on, I'm bringing up a picture. Oh, this one. Okay, yeah, yeah. No, this one looked pretty cool. I like the period piece element to it is really cool. The martial arts aspect to it is nice. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's games like this that come out, and you get excited about it, and then it kind of doesn't fulfill your expectations. So I'm really hoping that this one pulls through, and maybe we'll get another franchise out of it.
Maybe we'll, but it looks really a lot of fun. You mentioned Mafia before we head to the break. Mafia, was it Mafia the
The
Undiscovered
the
Country or something like
the
that?
old world, I think it's called.
Old World, yeah, something like that. I said Undiscovered. It's like Star Trek. Hey, what
Old
was
country. Yeah.
Old Country? Yeah, something country. There you go. I was thinking like Star Trek, the old Star Trek movie, but I will say that this takes you back to almost like a Godfather feel. Like, remember the
Mhm.
part of Godfather where they go to the old world in Italy and they have that section of the movie there, and you learn more about the characters. It's more character building there. I'm interested in it, but when it comes to that, how much is it going to be storytelling? Is it going to keep the attention of the gamer, or is it going to be too much cutscene, cutscene, talking, talking, cutscene instead of actually going out and living the world at that time?
I don't know. That's a good question. Mafia 2 was the last one I played, and I think they balanced that okay, maybe. But you know, this one looks like it's got plenty of different scenery to play around in, a lot of story elements. So unless they're showing they're just taking everything and shoving it into the trailer. I have some pretty high hopes for this one.
So we'll see. Yeah, absolutely. But if you have thoughts out there on the VGAs as far as the announcements that were made, uh, again, check us out later this week when Josh will drop a Super BS Gamescast, or if you're on the Humanica Media channel or the YouTube channel for Pop Culture Cosmos, you get a chance to see it. Our full review of the VGAs. But if you have thoughts on the VGAs, the awards, the announcements, and anything you wanted to go ahead, or even if you just want to take a shot at Jeff Keighley, please let us know. PopCultureCosmos at yahoo.com. Well, just a few minutes to go, my friend, but I would be remiss if we did not take a parting shot at Sony. Not because we're Sony haters in any sense of the word, but in this case, you got to take a parting shot. I was talking to you and texting you back and forth as far as with Craven, and the failure of Craven the Hunter this weekend. Let me go ahead and take a look at the numbers as far as how bad it did. But yes, it is the worst performing movie in the Sony Spider-Verse, and even below earlier this year, Madam Web, which is considered pretty bad in and of itself. Yeah, it's going to be projected as of recording right now about $11 million this weekend, and for a $150-200 million movie, that's bad, really, really bad. But right around the time of its release earlier last week, it was announced that Sony will no longer be active. Well, reports are, but when all the reports are all over the place in the trade papers, you pretty much get a sense that finally common sense has hit Sony, and they will no longer be pursuing a Spider-Verse beyond the Spider-Man character. That means no more Venoms, no more Craven Hunters, Madam Webs, et cetera, et cetera. Morbius. I think this is smart. But as I texted to you, Universal thought of this as far as their Monsterverse getting out of that business after one film. They had the common sense to do so and bail out on it. You kind of said maybe that shouldn't have been the case, or how was I able to? I don't know. I may have interpreted your text wrong on your thoughts on what most likely will be the end of Sony's Spider-Verse outside of Spider-Man himself.
No, so what I was saying is it seems weird to me that they would do that after dumping so much money into all this. Yeah, there are a lot of misfires and a lot of things that shouldn't have been fired at all. Madam Web especially, but it just seems weird to me that after dumping so many millions of dollars into making a lot of these movies, that they would just pull the plug on it. Because I don't fully understand how the Spider-Man IP is currently being shared between Sony and Marvel, because it seems to me that Sony has access to like Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire, so they could just as easily create more Spider-Man movies involving them and not necessarily have to use Tom Holland's character. But also Tom Holland's character, Sony can, from what I understand, they can move him back into the Sony universe. So it doesn't make sense to me that they would make all these movies and not incorporate Spider-Man into them in some way. Because I guarantee you, if you had a movie where Spider-Man was fighting, Eddie Brock's Venom, or having him go toe to toe with Jared Leto's Morbius, that there would be a desire to see that, especially Craven's The Last Hunt or The Wild Hunt is also a good arc, would be good money makers too. So it just seems weird to me that they would invest so much money into this world and then just pull the cord on it. So I don't know. That's just my thought though. And I don't know what the financial fallout has been from all this, but
It's a lot of red ink.
yeah.
The only one that really made, I think, at the end of the day, Josh, because we always talk about what's the relationship between when you put a movie out and when it actually makes a profit. And I said the old adage, I think, 3.5 to 4 times whatever the reported budget is, because you also got to put in, that doesn't even count for any advertising. how much the theater owners take from themselves. If you send it overseas, you get a lower cut of that, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So a movie has to make let's just say 4 times on an average of what it does as far as the budget is concerned. Venom may be the only movie on all those other side movies that have actually turned a profit in the theaters. And it took Sony so many times at the Apple before they realized, you know what? I think we should just stick to the Spider-Man related scenarios as far as Spider-Man and, of course, Across the Spider-Verse, which has done really well so far. Which is a shame, Josh, because the Spider-Verse, I think I read one time that has over 900 characters in this Sony Spider-Verse that they can draw from. But
Yeah.
seemingly they've not been able to draw from that Spider-Verse the most interesting characters that can appeal to a wide audience.
Yeah, so I read a weird rumor on the internet earlier today saying that Sony was getting ready to hire a new actor to play Spider-Man in their Spider-Verse. So I don't know. There's probably no truth to that. It's probably just conjecture, but it seems weird to me also that they wouldn't eventually do the third Spider-Verse film and then have that somehow meld into a new universe, much like the Ultimate, with the Ultimate what I'm trying to say, when the Ultimate Universe ended in the comic books and Miles Morales came out into the mainline Marvel universe, it seems weird to me that they wouldn't try to do something like that, because then all this effort they put into making a lot of these other movies wouldn't have been in vain. Yes, they did bad, but now there's a way to use Spider-Man to kind of weave them all together, and I think that that's something people might be interested in.
So again, this is a very sad ending to something. Again, it sounded great in theory, Josh. Okay, let's make a movie out of all these side characters developing, and then, like you said at the time, Josh, you were pining for a Sinister Six movie. You were pining for a movie where all these characters are going to get together and battle against Spider-Man, and you thought this was going to be the way. Now, it still may at some point in time. I mean, they might get all these characters back to go ahead and be like a, like Spider-Man 3 or The Amazing Spider-Man 2, where they get a whole bunch of these guys together, or the last Spider-Man itself with Tom Holland, where they get a whole bunch of these characters together and get them all there. So if you really want to say, okay, they put them out there to die, the movies all suck, but maybe there could be some life left. I mean, Tom Hardy in Venom, I still think has life left. Maybe not in another movie themselves, but I think you should not give up on the character. Or at least I'm hoping that they won't. But with some of these others, maybe they can get some kind of, I guess, retribution if they are part of something more successful in a Spider-Man.
But this is what kills me, though, because Sony still has the right and ability to make movies with Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire, but they're not doing it. So this is what kills me. So I don't know what is happening contractually between Sony and Marvel right now, and maybe that's what's stopping it. Maybe that's what's putting a complete halt on this entire Sony Spider-Verse. But yeah, you're absolutely right. Like there is potential for them to save the ship before they completely go down, and all they need to do is add the one person that they have not added into any of these movies, and that is Spider-Man.
Yes. Well, again, that's the one thing they've gotten right so far. And of course, Spider-Man 4 is all on the way. So we will see. Again, I'm looking forward to seeing more of that universe. I'm looking more of as far as the Spider-Verse movies. The third Spider-Verse movie, I'm really looking forward to seeing what they do to close out, because I really enjoyed the first two Spider-Verse. I've told you I even saw the first one earlier this year. Was it earlier this year? I think it was earlier this year here at the Smith Center in Las Vegas, where they had the live performance and whatnot. I really thought it was absolutely fantastic, that type of presentation. And the second one, it may not have hit all the right notes as far as the story wise, but it was still, as a visual concept, I mean, all those Spider-Mans on screen I thought that was a blast watching that.
Sure.
So,
yep, I agree.
So again, stick to what works. And if Universal ever tries to bring out the MonsterVerse again, or somebody tries to think, you know what a good idea is, Josh? we're sitting in the boardroom. You know what a good idea is? Let's go ahead and do ... verse. Let's build a universe together and go ahead and see if everything works. Make sure you think these side characters or these characters in the universe you're creating for these separate stories are worthy or are appealing enough to an audience in order to do so. And my advice is the one thing you got right, Spider-Man or whatever entity it is that blows up, have the side characters be involved with that first before you decide to tell your story separately with them. See if they resonate with audiences first in a test on a smaller scale before you put them up in a larger scale with what we've seen.
That makes too much sense. You're talking crazy now.
I'm sorry, man. Wow, I'm sorry. I feel ashamed. Maybe we should just end the series and end the show right now because of it. Nah, we're good. We're good. We can go ahead. But all right. Yeah, but my friend, just that's my thoughts. I just think that what it comes down to is when you create. I don't mind the idea of a verse because obviously with Marvel it's worked. DC, your guess is as good as ours. As now with Creature Commandos, they're starting their own universe with James Gunn again. So we'll see how that works out. But if you do it right, you have the investment that people put their time and energy into and stay with for a long period of time. So if you do it right, Josh, it can be well worth watching.
Yeah. Oh, I agree. They gotta, and James Gunn, as far as he goes, like it's a really we're just kind of waiting and seeing right now. I mean, he's got one shot with Superman to make this thing amazing, but if not, I think it's gonna be really hard for Warner Brothers to bring that ship back to life.
So before we head on out, if you have any thoughts on the end of the Sony Spider-Verse with the failure of Kraven the Hunter, please let us know. popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Well, we have a couple minutes left. Again, go ahead and check out the Happy Hoarder on social media. All the stuff that he does with the Super BS Gamescast and Humana Comedian. But before we head on out, since we probably won't get to it in our next episodes, because we'll be talking the best and worst of the year, and I'll be putting shows all over the place with the best and worst year for everyone. It's that time of the year, my friend. The Christmas movies, the Christmas TV shows. Time to go back to our favorite Christmas movie ever, which is
Christmas Vacation. Right? No, what is the best Christmas? Die Hard. Is that what you're about to say?
Yeah, man. I think that was I think yours is Christmas Vacation. Mine's Die Hard. That's right.
Yeah. I know. I was having this discussion with my students the other day. They're talking about asking why Die Hard is considered a Christmas movie, and we got into a nice conversation about how Christmas is the backdrop of Die Hard, and how like setting affects character arcs and things like that. So it was really interesting.
Netflix just recently brought Carry On, which is their tribute to Die Hard and Die Hard 2. If you watch that, that's with Taron Egerton.
I saw a thing for that today. I want to I want to watch that.
It's their tribute to Die Hard, so I'll see how it plays out. It's like LAX, Christmas in LAX. So will that become the next beloved Christmas movie? We'll find out indeed. But Josh, it's been great to have you here. And one last thing, congratulations on your team. Doing so well. I saw that on social media. I wanted to make sure give you a shout out for all you and your team's efforts out there.
Yeah, thank you. This was a big, we got out in the semifinals, but it was still like this was the first time since COVID that they've had any like in-person gatherings for esports, in our area. So this was nice. The kids got out, had a good time. We had we got out because the team we were playing against, they use fighters. I forget what character it was, one of the Street Fighter characters that is, really just insanely fast. So we're having a hard time figuring out how to recover from that. So it's nice you go and you learn new things, you learn things you need to work on. So I think we'll be back and better than ever next season.
Sounds good, my friend. Looking forward to it. Continued success to your teams and continued success to you. I know you and I will be talking the best, the worst in pop culture. Also, everybody else is going to be seeing that in upcoming episodes, so stay tuned for that. But of course, everything we do here, check out later this week, the Super BS Gamescast on the VGAs and the upcoming Super BS Gamescast, the best in gaming as well. So for Josh the Great Peterson, this is Gerald Glassford. It's another beautiful day in paradise right here in the pop culture cosmos. We thank you for listening. And here's hoping you have yourself a great day.
Welcome to the pop culture cosmos.